Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza Ann Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started.
Hello, y'all. I almost said you guys, and I said y'all, and then it was like y'all. But anyway, I am triple espressoed up. So welcome to the show. We have an awesome guest with us, Jessica of Simply Jessica Marie. You guys know her. You love her. She's our favorite grand millennial. Oh my gosh. So excited to chat with her today. So I'm going to read her bio real quick, and then we'll get started in all the conversation we have going on with her. So filling homes with color and whimsy, Simply Jessica Marie offers classic prints and florals, personality-packed heirloom family crests, and thoughtful watercolor gifts. Her business was founded in 2013, and her lifestyle shop provides charming, high-quality offerings that fill each day with breathtaking beauty, ranging from hand-painted art prints to tea towels, wrapping paper, calendars, and more. The creative business also features the Crest Bar, which is like her signature thing. So cool. Bringing the stories of couples, families, and businesses to life through cherished crests, personalized with hand-created floral color, monogram, and icon selections, and transformed into investment pieces that last a lifetime. We love it. So a family-owned and operated small business, Simply Jessica Marie, is founded and owned by Jessica Peddicord, a grand millennial watercolor artist, crest designer, and educator who is dedicated to preserving family memories and decorating intentionally. Passionate about teaching other small business owners, Jessica also offers online courses and her student favorite vendor guide to help each student hone their craft, grow their own product shops, and navigate their industry. And we'll give you all the links for all her stuff later. But Jessica, we're so excited to chat with you. I feel like it's been a long time coming to have you on this show. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on this show too. I was telling Cami before when we were scheduling the interview that y'all's podcast is one of my favorites to listen to while packing shop orders. So it's cool to be on the show myself now.
It's very, very exciting because I don't know. It's been a long time, Jessica, since you and I talked. Maybe last time would have been like when we were organizing the summit. So
probably.
It's really fun to be able to like touch base and see how your business has been progressing in the past years, especially. So we'll go ahead and just jump right into the questions that we have for you guys. Jessica's amazing. She really outlined everything with detailed bullet points. And
Jessica's like the neatest person alive. Like she's just like so perfect, and like even like your stories of your office with like your boxes all lined up perfectly. And I'm like, I wish mine looked like that. Like it's so nice and neat. And then her little interview questions here, just like all like ABC, and then like goes into Roman numerals. You're like, what in the heck? This is exactly what I would expect. Like it's so buttoned up.
I have to be prepared.
She is so prepared, and I love it. So Jessica, tell us, when you first started your business, do you remember your intentions with it at the beginning? If you can remember back to that point when we all come to our businesses, we kind of have an idea in our head, maybe of what it looks like. So I'd love to hear what your vision was or what you thought it would be.
Yeah, of course. So I feel like, I don't know, it was a lot smaller than I was thinking it would ever grow into at this point. I actually started as a blog when I was in college and bought the domain name simplyjessicamarie.com because jessicamarie.com was taken. So Simply was kind of a little blurb that I added on the front, but I feel like it really encompasses the personality of my brand now and encouraging people to slow down and enjoy the simple moments of their life and the simple beauty in their lives. But it started as a blog when I was hoping to become a wedding planner in college. So it was kind of a portfolio to showcase for internships and jobs I was applying to with wedding planners. And then in 2013, the summer after I graduated college, I also added a shop to support myself during the summer after graduating, since I moved to Nashville at that point and I got a part-time wedding planning job, but it wasn't quite enough to support rent in Nashville. So I was actually looking back at my blog posts while I was preparing notes for our interview. And it was kind of cool to look back and see what those initial thoughts were, because it is kind of hard to think back and remember years later. And it was really sweet to see kind of the thoughts about how I was thinking through the products I was adding to my shop at that point and the meaning behind them. And they still do really align with, I feel like, the heart behind my business now. So I have a couple of quotes pulled from the blog, if it's okay if I read those real quick.
Of course. Go ahead.
So when I was first starting my shop, I really started to brainstorm ideas about things that mean something to me and were intentional. I had gone to the Making Things Happen conference. I don't know if y'all remember that from so long ago. Southern Weddings had put it on, but I really started to brainstorm ideas for my business while I was at that conference. And I realized that I wanted to do things that bring the most joy to my heart and inspired others to live their lives to the fullest and be true to their core and really showcase their personality, which I feel like still aligns with like my crests and my shop products that are really colorful and try and allow people to connect to their roots. And one of the first shop products that I had were these hand-painted monogrammed canvases. And I was designing them while I was in college for my sorority sisters. And I thought they were adorable. But when I saw something on Emily Lay's website, which I think everyone who is in the product industry probably knows who Emily Lay is. She's like one of my favorite business owners. But
queen,
she said
yes.
that I know, she's really the queen. She said she loves monograms because they remind her of her family and her background. And so that struck a chord inside me and kind of brought a whole new meaning to the trendy way to display your initials. And so that was what kind of pivoted me to thinking about what products to create for my shop. And that was one of my first products. And I wanted to create them so that others could be proud of where they came from and to see those canvases every day and thank the Lord for the loving family that raised them. And I still design monograms through the Crest Bar. So it's kind of cool to see how things have ebbed and flowed throughout the years, but still connect.
Yeah, I love that because I feel like I think I followed you like since the beginning of your journey. Like before I even had my business, like I knew of your business. You're like one of my biggest inspirations, Jessica. Like randomly because like you had your business before I had mine. I just remember following you and being like, oh my gosh, like her stuff is so cute. And and you were in Knoxville. That's like probably why I knew of you. So I feel like I've like seen your entire business journey and just like watch the growth because you really did start with those things and you're still doing the same things. It's just so much more polished and sophisticated and just has like, you have that same distinctive style as you did then, but it's just like grown up with you. And I think that's really cool. So can you talk a little bit about what your business looks like now compared to what it like looked like in the beginning? Because you have seen like so much growth with that.
Yeah, it's really cool to see how it's grown. So I am going to be entering the 9th year of my business this month, which is crazy. A lot has changed over the past 9 years, and it's definitely a lot bigger and more fun than I could have ever imagined. I always had hopes of becoming a full-time artist ever since I was a little kid. There was this photo of me painting in like my high chair. And every time that I had journaled and like done things for school, artist was always my goal. So it's cool to see that that's what I am now, but it's still so humbling to me that I've been able to grow it to the point where I now get to employ my sister full time and I have a really wonderful part-time studio assistant. So it's just crazy that I had been working for other entrepreneurs when I was first starting out in my journey. And now I get to become the same kind of boss for other people who have those creative aspirations. And then it's also just so cool to have my products in over 100 stores across the world, including Europe. That happened, I think, a week or two ago from the Fair Summer Market that finally helped me hit that milestone, which was really cool. I think, Cami, you're in like 500. So
I hit
a little
500
bit different.
recently.
But so I know that's like small potatoes compared to your milestone, but it was still something that I loved celebrating. And then I also think it's really cool that I've found ways to scale my artwork through printed products since I started out hand painting everything, because I still do vividly remember those horrible hand cramps and backaches from bending over and painting on my couch when I was first starting out. So it's really great to be able to see how that's helped to scale and grow, and then also helping to teach hundreds of other people how to paint and start or grow their own shops. I think that's definitely one of the most exciting things that I've been able to do throughout the past 9 years, and something I never would have imagined that I could do when I was first starting.
Very cool. It's fun to hear all of the differences about how it has progressed over time. It looks like you had a couple like other points as well about some of the things currently. So I would love to keep hearing those because I'm just like, I could see all of your notes.
Yeah,
Yeah, so go ahead and like keep sharing the other things that you
yeah,
mentioned.
of course. So I don't think I mentioned this when I was answering your first question, but when I was first starting my shop, I got the really fun opportunity to take a girls' trip with my mom to Italy the summer after I graduated college. And I brought a journal with me. And I remember that we were going on a train ride from one city to another. And I had the perfect kind of like romanticized time to sit down and think through what my future was going to hold. And so I had that notebook and I was sketching out ideas for the different products that I would offer. And I definitely feel like at that point, I was thinking so kind of simple and small, and I never thought that I would be able to get this big. And I did want to share some encouragement that I'm hoping this doesn't come across as sounding boastful, but more so encouraging to others who are in that dreamer or early phases of their business when they're still just planning out ideas and not sure where they're going to be able to take it, that if you continue to put in the effort consistently to dream big and grow, that you can definitely make it happen. I always tell my family that I think it's so funny when people kind of are thinking that my shop is so wonderful and great, because I mean, I love it and it is, but I'm just a simple everyday person. So if I can do it, I hope that you know that you can too. So I just wanted to share that encouragement too. And then on a fun note, I wrote down that I also think I would love the fact that I have a pink home studio, because I think the inner child in me would just think it's so fun that I get to have a little girl cave in our house where I get to come to work every day. And I would love an out of the house studio one day soon. Like Cami, your shop is such dream goals. And it is in my 5-year plan. But I think that it is still kind of sweet that my path is similar to the other women who helped shape me in those early years, like Amber, the wedding planner that I worked with in Nashville, and Laura Casey, who I interned with in college. They both had successful businesses that they ran from bonus rooms in their homes. So I think that's just another thing I wanted to encourage to people too, that even though I'm 9 years in business, I'm still working from home, but making it work. And you kind of have to do what you can to make things as successful as possible within your lifestyle and the goals for your business.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much, because it's amazing what you can do with just a home studio, and you like don't even realize how much stuff you can actually fit in there.
Yeah.
And like I am still shocked that you still have a home studio, because I know how much inventory you have, especially like as you're diving more into wholesale. It just it just starts to get a little bit bigger and bigger, but I'm sure there's like spillover into the rest of your house too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I was going to say, my home studio is just a little tiny space in the house, but I definitely have, it's a cute space where I keep some packaging supplies and inventory, but then we have spillover into our garage, and thankfully we have a shed in the backyard, and then just like random closets throughout other rooms in our house. So it's kind of time, but I just haven't found the perfect space for
I know. It's
yet.
hard to find the perfect space too. And it's like kind of scary, and it's just, I don't know, it has to be the right feel.
So much more expensive than I thought.
So much more overhead. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's definitely a thing. Like there's just pros and cons to both sides. And like, now I'm like, well, now I have a baby and I really miss my little home studio because that was so nice. But also I would never go in there to work anyway if I was home. So
true.
So it all works out. But okay. So I'm going to throw everyone off because everyone's so buttoned up with this little list, but I'm asking a question that's not even on here. So I just want to talk about your overall brand and branding and that whole vibe, because I think anyone in our industry knows you are like the queen of beautiful product photos that just like sell the lifestyle. Like you just take that photo and make it like so perfect. Like when I see that, I'm like, I want to be a grand millennial. And like, that's not even my vibe, but like you do such a good job of showing your products and lifestyle images, you using them and just like really owning your brand. Can you just talk about, did your brand kind of evolve over time, or did you like start off with a plan of like, this is like, I'm going to be pink and green or whatever and like go this way? Because I know that's like so hard to pinpoint, and that's something small business owners really struggle with. Because can you just talk about branding a little bit and how you kind of made that for yourself?
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned pink and green, because when I was looking back at my first blog post about when I launched my brand and shop and website and everything, oh my gosh, it was so horrible. I'll have to see if I can send it to you. But I created my first logo.
Not as Send it to me.
created
I have it memorized.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So my very first branding was I created it in Photoshop. It was not even like hand painted watercolor, but I used the paintbrush tool in Photoshop to create this like peony border around a little monogrammed square. It was so bad, but I was so proud of it. And it was pink and green with like touches of gold and stuff like that fake gold foil stuff that I feel like we all had back in 2013. And so it's definitely evolved a little bit throughout the years. I think I had one more rebrand in between that and what my current branding is now. And that was also a crest. It was just not quite as nice as the crest I have now. But when I started to dive into wedding invitations, I think that was the point when I had decided that I wanted a new crest logo that kind of embodied the services and artwork that I was providing to my clients. And so that's when I created the crest logo. And then I think in 2018 or 2019, I launched my crest bar in 2019. So I think it was around that time I recreated my logo with kind of more of the full icon border that is kind of like telltale of my crest bar. It's more of a storytelling crest than just a simple floral border. And I wanted to include elements that related to the different products and services and kind of overall lifestyle that embodies my brand. So it's gone through a few different iterations, but I feel like the overall meaning and heart and look behind the brand has stayed relatively the same, even if the colors and everything have changed. And I've always done it myself. I know that a lot of people invest in wonderful brand designers, and at some point I might in the future, but I feel like I don't know how you feel, Cami and Elizabeth, but as an artist, I've always felt like it makes sense for me to at least have some sort of a hand in the design process of my branding. At some point, I'm hoping to switch over. This is kind of a tangent, but from Squarespace to Shopify. And at that point, I might need to hire someone to help with that because that seems like a very large task. So I might hire a designer to help with that. But I think I would still always love to have a hand in the actual logo design, whether it's me creating it with my ideas or working with a designer to recreate it. But I still feel like even though I've had my current branding since 2019, it's still a pretty accurate reflection of my business. And then I love that you mentioned the photos and how they kind of tell the story of my brand, because I do think that that's a really key component in how I've been able to grow my shop. I remember when I was first starting out, I started out with stock photos, which are great, and I still use them from time to time. But I feel like when I started to really take the time to invest in photo shoots, and I still do most of the photography on my own on my iPhone, but I do tend to hire a photographer a couple times a year for bigger photo shoots, like for holiday and everything. But being able to really show how customers can envision using products in their own lives has helped to sell those products better, if that makes sense.
Totally. And I'm just like, is your husband taking all these photos with you in it, or what's the deal?
He has become a great Instagram husband. Yes, he's helped a lot. But when I hired my assistant, Mary Claire, he was like, okay, you have an assistant now. So she's going to be in charge of taking your photos so that we don't have to spend hours on a weekend doing them. But yeah, he's been a trooper.
Yes. I feel like I'm always yelling at Alex. I'm like, rule of thirds, out. And this is exactly how I want it. I have to take a picture with him in it and then use that as the reference. And I'm like, and this is how I want it with me. And he still doesn't get it. He'll get like 3 really good pictures a year. And I'm like, this is your best work. And that's it.
Oh my gosh. Thankfully, so Zach actually, he used to be a wedding videographer. It's kind of how we met. And so he has that kind of like trained eye, thankfully. So he's good. But yeah, he's definitely grateful to have passed that baton. He still takes it from time to time. But
I have to say, Jessica, the fact that you have been on Squarespace as long as you have, like your website is very robust because there's a lot of things happening. I almost feel like you could keep that and use it in partnership with like a Shopify site that would just host your shop and products rather than trying to move everything, because you wouldn't be able to do it like as beautifully as like the way
I know,
you
that's
have
what
it
I've
set
been
up
nervous
now.
about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people do that now where they like partner a couple different sites together. So like when people want to use like Show It, and then that doesn't have a built-in shop feature, so they have just like a Shopify site, you know, like simply jessicamarie.shop or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I know one of my stationer friends, that's what she does. So
Yeah.
definitely something to consider.
Yeah,
Someday.
because that your site is so beautiful, and
I
I just
know.
am
I'm like,
afraid Shopify's gonna ruin it. But
don't
I
get rid of
Shopify
it.
it is so
Don't.
much better for all the products, though. It is, I mean, you know how
Yeah.
annoying Squarespace can get.
Oh
So,
yeah, I've reached the cap of how many products I
yeah,
can have on one page, which is why I
yeah.
now have like the holiday shop, the Valentine's Day shop, the spring shop,
Oh, yes.
because I ran
Oh,
out of room.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. That's like I'm like stressed out just thinking about you transferring now because I know how
I
much
know.
work it is. But
That's why I've been putting it off.
yep, I totally get it. I totally get it. So whew, best of luck with that.
Thank you.
Oh gosh. Okay. Where are we? I derailed everyone off the train. I'm so
No,
Oh
sorry.
no, it's
okay.
okay. We can just come back to kind of the retail side of your business.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us when you started to add retail products to your business and what did you focus on first? Take us through the whole process.
Yeah. So I feel like I have a very similar business journey to a lot of other artists. I actually started out with products. They were like hand painted for the most part, but then I also had letterpress art prints and they were a huge flop. So that conference that I went to, I had come up with 3 different kind of phrases or mantras, if you will, to live by. And I worked with this incredible letterpress printer that I had met at the conference to turn them into what I thought was beautiful art prints, but they just did not translate well to my customers. So I just wanted to throw that out there that I was not like an immediate overnight success by any means either. It took a little bit of time to figure out what translated well to my customers and what they really wanted. So my first, I feel like, successful product collection was later that fall. I came out with a fall greeting card line. And I still remember, I think my best selling one was a girl holding a pumpkin spice latte. And I think it said, like, I love you a latte or something like that. And that one sold really well. And it's actually what got me back into watercolor because all of the canvases that I was painting, they were in acrylic. And I went to Michael's and I just got this like really cheap watercolor pack. And it's like, I'm going to try and get back into painting with watercolor. And I'm so glad that I did because that's obviously what I focus on now. So that was kind of the first deep dive into products that I designed and printed on my own, not in-house by any means, but finding a vendor that I loved and working with them and doing samples and all of that stuff and product photography on my own instead of hiring a photographer. And so that was my first collection that I feel like started as the catalyst, but then after I started creating more shop products, that kind of naturally segued into people requesting custom paintings because a lot of the products that I was designing were focused on kind of like portraits of fashion people, if that makes any sense. That was really big back in 2013. So I had a lot of fashion bloggers that I had partnered with on collaborations where I painted portraits of them for Instagram for kind of some influencer marketing, even though that wasn't really a thing back at the time. And that kind of led to more inquiries for custom paintings. And then that eventually led into requests for custom wedding invitations. And then I dabbled in brand design here and there. So I kind of dabbled in a bunch of different things. And then, as one does, quickly got burnt out from all of that custom work. And then, kind of around that same time, I started adding online courses and my vendor guide. And I knew that it was too much to be able to offer all of those different types of custom designs and start to grow my shop and really nurture my students through the online courses and vendor guide. And I was at a mastermind retreat and I was kind of spilling my guts to all the girls who were there and trying to figure out how to continue what I loved in my business without feeling consistently burnt out. And that conversation is what led to pivoting away from invitations and fully custom work and trying the new concept of the Crest Bar. And I'm so glad that I went to that mastermind retreat because it did take a couple more years for me to actually develop the Crest Bar. But that is really what allowed me to kind of focus on that as the one core custom offering that I have in my shop. And then really get to grow the product side of my business, both wholesale and retail, and then still continue education, because offering all of those different things was just way too much to handle, especially at that point, since I was still a one-woman show. Then I did not have any outside help or anything. So that was kind of the journey. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that same path. I don't know if, I feel like the two of you kind of did a few different things at first as well. So I don't know if you can relate to that.
Hey guys, we just wanted to hop in and talk about one of our amazing resources, the A to Z directory. All of us have thought at some point, how did she do that, or how did she make that? And maybe you don't know where to start or how the heck to produce this amazing product you've dreamt up.
Well, the A to Z directory is the missing puzzle piece in your biz, you guys, seriously. So it's built in the form of a yearly membership, and it's your one-stop shop for finding suppliers and vendors for all the things. Literally where to print everything from custom invitations, greeting cards, mugs, koozies, acrylic printing, letterpress, custom ribbon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it literally goes from A to Z. From acrylic printers to zipper pouches, we have it in the A to Z directory.
We want to help all of you search less and create more with this list of 300 plus vendors and suppliers. Don't worry, they're very organized. It's not going to be overwhelming and confusing when you join. And this membership also includes access to a private Facebook community. It's incredibly active and involved. And if you need a question answered fast, that is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, our Facebook group really is the best. You guys, everyone is so helpful in there. And we're in there too, answering questions you guys might have. So it's a great way to get access to us and ask us things without sliding into our DMs. So we're more likely to answer you in the Facebook group, just saying. Anyway, also in the Facebook group, this is new for 2020 and we're really excited about it. We are hosting monthly Power Hour Q&A sessions that are live, and these are only available to our A to Z directory members. So you can hop in with us live and ask us all your burning questions in real time and just hang out with us every month. And we do these at different times so you can actually be there live, and the replays are always available in the Facebook group for members.
This resource is priced at $147 a year, which honestly is extremely affordable and is full of so many benefits, such as exclusive vendor coupons for members only. And we would love to have you guys join. Seriously, it's kind of like our family and our tribe. So visit bizbirthdaybash.com/directory to sign up today and use coupon code podcast2020 to receive $20 off your first year. That's podcast, all caps, 2020 for $20 off your first year.
We can't wait to see you in the Facebook group. So your calendars were like they still are honestly one of your biggest products. And I feel like you saw like so much growth from that. So let's talk about your calendars and like the growth with that and when you started offering those.
Yeah. So I started offering, I have it in my notes. My very first calendar was actually in year 2. So it's been a consistent product since almost the very beginning, but it's changed a lot throughout the years. When I first started out, I was designing cocktail calendars. And so I think the first year it was like these cute kind of fashion girls holding different cocktails. And then years 3 through 5, they were more focused on just the cocktails themselves, whether it was kind of like a, what is the word? A still life featuring the cocktails. I think a couple of those years was that. And then one was more a simplified, just the cocktail glass with the cocktail in it. And I loved those, but I realized that I was kind of limiting my reach with how many people would be interested in buying them, because if you don't drink, or if that's just not something that you're attracted to, it might not be a product that you would want to purchase. And so in year 6 of my business, I had the opportunity to work with a wonderful photographer and wedding planner on a styled shoot in Dallas, and it was ginger jar themed. And so I painted my very first ginger jar painting. It was my ginger jar with peonies painting, and that's still my best-selling art print to this day. And I got such a great reaction from my customers about that print that I decided to pivot into designing my ginger jar calendar. And that was a really big catalyst for the growth of my shop. I feel like it really helped me to reach the audience that I was wanting to reach, which at that point, I think that's when that might be the year when Grand Millennial was kind of becoming a trend, even though I feel like it's, always been a trend, but it was becoming more trendy. And it helped me to work with a lot of influencers who are interested in that calendar and sharing it. And I feel like a lot of people loved the option of more of a floral calendar that they could really easily gift to anybody, whether it was a friend or a mother-in-law or a teacher or just anybody. I feel like it was just a little bit more versatile. And so ever since then, that's kind of been more the theme of my calendars, has been more floral focused. And so then the year after that, I had my Grand Millennial calendar. And then this past year, I had the birth month botanical calendar. And I'm currently painting a new calendar for 2023, which will be more kind of back to the ginger jar calendar, but more kind of like antique vases and pictures and stuff like that with florals. So that was really a big growing point for my shop. And I'm actually going to be bringing back the ginger jar calendar and Grand Millennial calendar this year because I've gotten so many requests for it. But I feel like I was stubborn for some reason for the longest time. And I was like, I'm not going to bring it back. Like that was that year's calendar. It's in the past. Sorry if you missed it. But then I was talking to Zach and he was like, well, why don't you just give the people what they want and give them multiple options? And so I'm going to have probably 3 or 4 calendars this year, which seems a little overwhelming, but I know that we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but I'm going to offer them as pre-order instead of just having inventory ready to ship because I have no idea how many people are going to want which calendar style. Yep. So I'll be interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, give the people what they want, okay?
Right, leave it to the husband to be like, just give the people what they want.
And you're like, I don't want to because then come out how much more complicated it gets. And I'm like, I just want to avoid that. But you're like, just give the people what they want.
Yeah.
I know.
So you're missing out on so much income potential, Jessica.
I know. Like, okay, fine. You're right. You're right.
You're right.
And to provide people, with context real quick, because this will be coming out Valentine's Day 2023. We're recording this, in August of 2020. So when Jessica's talking about creating her calendar, it will be released at the point you guys are listening to the episode. So if people are like, what is happening? That's the timeline.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's wild, first of all. And then now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, I was going to say, so it's just crazy to me how you have continued to niche further and further down into this little stylistic look of the Grand Millennial. And you started off being like, oh, this is too much with the cocktail calendar. It's not enough appeal, but I feel like you've gotten even further down into a smaller niche with the Grand Millennial thing, but it's totally working for you. And I feel like the calendars kind of were the spark for that to just figure out that style. And for me with my business, I feel like I started figuring out the direction when I released the stupid party pennants, and those just led into oh, I'm going to go into the party space. And I feel both of our paths have been really similar before. So it's just kind of funny to see where they've gone. I feel like I've kind of gone this party space and now you're in the Grand Millennial space. And my audience is the confetti mom is what I call them.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how you can start to niche down and just really hit your stride. So guys in the audience, don't be afraid of niching down. Don't be afraid of choosing one style and kind of sticking through there because there's so much you can do within that. And that's what makes it really fun to have a little bit of that boundary.
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like the two of our businesses from a bird's eye view are so similar. We're both watercolor artists. Yeah. We both have product shops. We both educate others.
We didn't do the weddings.
But at the same time, I mean, we have such different customer bases. And I know we were talking about that back when we were talking about fair and how I was like, yeah, well, my art prints, I feel like are some of my best sellers. And then you were like, well, I feel like my party stuff is more of my best sellers. And it's I feel like that makes sense because I attract a lot of interior design shops as customers and you attract a lot of party shops as customers. So they are completely different. I feel like even though we're both watercolor artists at the bare minimum description
at the core,
of what we are.
Still doing watercolor artists with products, even some of the same products. We both have stir sticks, but we have very different customers who want those stir sticks and very different uses for them, it's just really cool. So I love that. And just goes to show there's lots of room for everybody at the table.
Yes.
With all different stir sticks at the table looking cute.
All the stir sticks.
Okay, where are we now?
You're good. We talked a little bit about the transition away from wedding invitations already into products, so I'm not sure how much we need to touch base on it again, Jessica, unless there was something else you wanted to sneak in there. Otherwise, we can still keep talking just about the brand of Simply Jessica Marie and specifically adding products to the line? Because I know we have quite a few more like product related questions. So I think we just go for that if you're okay with
That's
that.
fine. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So Cami has already talked a little bit about your brand and how it has continued to really stay strong, even as you've niched down and you've gotten more focused. So can you tell us how you feel like you've kind of made that possible? Were there any difficulties during all of that, or did it feel like a natural transition for you?
Yeah. I remember when I saw this question, I was like, I've never really thought about it that way. So it was interesting to see that you had asked that, because I do feel like Simply Jessica Marie is still a really good umbrella for all of the different parts of my business, since it doesn't have a qualifying word like stationery or anything like that attached to it that I had to remove or change or rebrand or anything. So I've never really felt the need to change it. And I feel like since my brand is a namesake brand, that it can really ebb and flow with me as I grow and evolve and as my business grows. And I was really intentional about that when I was first starting my business and my blog. And I wanted it to be something that had me at the core, and then it could kind of grow with me, if that made sense. And I know when I hired my sister this past year, I had gotten a question from someone asking if I would change the name of my business, since she was going to be working with me as well. And since I have other team members too, but I still feel like it is a good brand name, if that makes sense, to encompass everything, because everything that we do, I still have a hand in. I'm still originally painting all the artwork for the crest bar, even though Julia is the one who is designing the crests and doing client communication. So I still have a hand in everything. And there are other really wonderful namesake brands that I feel like have grown too, like Emily Lai, like we talked about earlier. And she has probably a massive team at this point. But it's still that, alongside Simplified, is still her business. So I don't know. It was interesting when you said that question. But I will say the one thing that I have considered is creating a separate website and social media for my art school, which is called the SJM Art School. So it's Simply Jessica Marie Art School. So it's kind of a umbrella underneath my big brand name. And I actually decided to buy the domain name for sjmartschool.com back in 2020 because I was afraid someone else would get it, even though I'm sure there's no one else with that business name. But I was just nervous.
Never know.
You never know.
You never know.
I might create a sister site for it at some point in the future and then link it back to my main site. But as we talked about a little bit ago, designing websites is very time consuming. So it just hasn't been a top priority for me. And I do have a lot of overlap between my students who are also customers of my shop and my Crest clients. They either start out as Crest clients and then also love to purchase tea towels and stir sticks and calendars, or they start out as loyal customers of the shop and then decide they want to have a Crest, or that they want to learn watercolor themselves. So there's a lot of overlap, which I feel like also helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Someday they might each all have their own little like websites, but that's, I'm assuming, probably like in the 5-year plan or
probably. Yeah.
or something along those lines. So tell us, when you add a new product to your line now, what do you take into consideration and what steps do you take to ensure it will fit into your business? Like a litmus test, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like this is the hardest thing because there are just so many products that you can consider adding to your shop. And I get so excited about them. And it can be really hard to narrow down not even just the different product categories, which can be really exciting and shiny and new, but then designs that you can put on those different products, and not like trying to figure out how to not add 1,000 different products to each collection can be challenging. And so I do have a list of just questions that I kind of think through as I'm deciding what products to add. So I'm happy to read over those.
Let's do it.
So one of the big ones that I think helps a lot is if that product will complement any of the other products that I currently have in my shop to increase my customers' average order value, because that's something that I'm always striving to increase. And thankfully, a lot of my customers do buy multiple products at the same time. So for example, If they're buying a mug, they might also buy a coordinating stir stick set and tea towel. Or if they are buying a notepad, they might also want the coordinating stationery. And so I always try and think of how to create products that won't just be kind of random and don't go with other products in my shop. So that's definitely a big one. And then another one that kind of goes along that lines is, will it distract from or add to my current product line? So if it's something that's completely different, and I was trying to think of a good example of this, but I couldn't think of a good one, but is it a product that I might want to carry on my own or collaborate with another brand in a licensing capacity? Oh, you know what? I do have a good example. So I just came out with a sneaker collaboration with my friend Styling Brunette. And I feel like that would be a kind of random product for me to add to my shop. I do have baseball hats and sweatshirts in my shop, so it kind of does go along with the apparel category. But I felt like, for a variety of reasons that we'll kind of touch on in future questions, it was just a product that I would rather partner with another brand to design rather than carrying them in-house, because it was pretty different from the products that I currently have in my shop, which for the most part are home decor and kind of like kitchenware type products. So that was another question that I typically ask myself. And I love collaborating with other brands. So thankfully, I feel like it's a really good opportunity to try different products without having them as a product that you have in your own shop. And then another question that I always like to ask is if it's something that I can buy in smaller quantities at first to test the market. I'm pretty conservative when it comes to how much inventory I order at first if it's a brand new product category, just in case it's a huge flop. I don't want to end up with dozens or hundreds of extra inventory that just won't sell. So I always like to see if it's something that I can buy in a smaller quantity first, like 10 or 25 versus hundreds. So that's a really important question that I ask. And then I also like to think through how large the product physically is. So the sneakers, like I was talking about, they would take up a lot of room in my studio. So if I need to buy a product in bulk, do I have the storage space, since I do have a home studio, for that inventory? So there are certain products that I would love to design, like acrylic trays, serving trays, but they're so large that if I had to buy them in bulk, I honestly don't know where I would put them. So I haven't kind of ventured into that yet. So the next question I like to ask myself is if I can sell it wholesale. That was a part of my business that I didn't start until, I think, 2019, 2020. 2020 is when I got on Fair, but I was doing some just wholesale on my own before that. And I kind of do wish that I had thought more intentionally about wholesaling products when I first started my shop, because there are certain products that are great for selling in my own shop, but the cost of them might be a little prohibitive for selling them wholesale unless you buy them in crazy bulk inventory, which I have branched into for some things like stir sticks, which I know Cami and I talk a lot about. But there are other products that I still can't personally wholesale, that I haven't found unicorn vendors for. So I wish that I had done a little bit more research on that before making them signature products in my shop. Just with the nature of watercolor and loving to do things full wrap, full bleed, from top to bottom and everything for things like mugs. There are certain vendors that I have found that I love recommending to my students, but just because I have dozens of different mug styles in my shop, and because I work from home, I don't have the storage space to have hundreds or thousands of each design, if that makes sense. So I always do like to see if it's a product that I can buy affordably enough to mark up to the point where I can wholesale it. And then I also like to see if there are other similar products on the market as the ones I'm considering. And if so, how can I differentiate mine? I think it's really important to do that kind of competitive research so that you don't accidentally copy somebody else, or make something that's too similar, since I know that that's a big struggle within the creative industry. And then another big question is if my customers have been asking for a new product like this, or if I can trust my gut enough to think that they will undoubtedly love it and for sure buy it. The hats that I was talking about, I feel like those were a product that I knew I wanted to design for myself because I do spend a lot of time outdoors gardening, and I wanted a cute hat that I could wear. And I designed this adorable bow hat that got a lot of great response on Instagram and ended up becoming the best-selling hat from that collection. And so it's always nice to have a product that's backed by data if you survey your audience about what products they want. But sometimes if you think you know that your customers will love it, it's fun to go with your gut and then be validated when it sells well. But sometimes, like some of the other hats that I designed in that collection didn't sell quite as well. So it is always reassuring to have the data from customer surveys if they've been asking for a product like that, so that you know you will probably have a better chance of selling it. And then the last two questions that I like to ask myself are if I can sell that product year round or if it's something that's seasonal. So if it's a product that doesn't sell out right away during that season, will I just hold on to it for, let's say, like the next 4th of July season or something, or next Valentine's Day? Or is it something that I can sell year round? So I love to have products that are kind of like a subtle hint at a holiday or theme, but not overly specific. And then maybe 1 or 2 per collection that are super specific to that holiday, but I might not invest as much inventory in those as I do the ones that are year round. And then the last thing I like to ask myself is if it's a shareable product. So if it's something that my customers will naturally be using on a daily or weekly basis and can share on Instagram or share with their friends, like mugs. Calendars are great because a lot of customers will share them flipping their calendar page every month. So it's consistent sharing throughout the year, or things that are wearable, like the hat that they might be wearing out in public to share with friends.
First of all, I hope everyone is taking 1,000 notes right now.
Yes.
These are all such good questions to ask yourself when bringing in a new product. And like, I mean, so many good ones. And like, I feel like the one I struggle with the most is like, do you have space for this? And I feel like the answer is always no. Like, unless I'm bringing in like buttons at this point, I don't have space. Like, I don't know how you started doing wrapping paper, because I'm like, where are you putting that, girlfriend? But I guess maybe you're just storing it flat. I don't know.
That is, so I had stored it flat for the longest time, but it takes so long to roll them. And so last year I decided my mother-in-law is the best and she rolls them so fast. And so she would come over after getting a new shipment and just spend like a whole day rolling all of the wrapping paper. And I just have these storage like baskets that I have in the closet right outside of my studio, and I have most of them in there, but then I do have like holiday ones and stuff in our shed. So those definitely do take up some space.
Yeah, shout out to all the mother-in-laws doing the task we don't want to do in our business, like tying ribbons and rolling things. Oh, gotta love that. Yeah,
Yes.
so such good questions there. And the same thing with like the customers asking for things, but you like go with your gut. Like the bow hats were just like right on brand, because it's like, you want to just be like sporty, but also fashionable. You can pair it with a dress. Like I love that. And it is like the best feeling when you find something that you're like, yes, they did like it. I know my customers. I love that feeling.
I know.
So much.
I feel like it's either that, where it's so great when it's aligned, and then sometimes you design things in a collection and your favorite is the one that people don't really buy as much, and then the one that you might not have spent as much time painting is the one that's the best seller. Like my Nutcracker mug last year, I think it was one that I was like, oh, this could be cute, and it was my best-selling product of last year. So,
and then you're like,
glad I did that.
Yeah, like stuff that I'm like, this is gonna be a hit. Like if I really think it's gonna be a hit, then it's probably, I'm gonna jinx myself, because it is always the one that I like spend the least amount of time. It was just like an afterthought where I was like, oh, I'll just add this, and it just like blows up like hotcakes. Like right now I have these pumpkin stir sticks that are like these ombre pumpkin stir sticks. I haven't even released them.
I saw those yesterday on Instagram.
Yeah, they're not even like out yet necessarily, but they're like blowing up on wholesale. And I was like, crap, I better go ahead and do another order, because like they're already gone and it's August. So, and those were literally just like, oh, I'll just add these. And like they're 4 of the same pumpkins. Like it's not even like exciting, but I guess it's exciting. What do I know?
They were very cute.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you just never know. It's all about like trying to hit that right trend, but also something that's timeless. Like it's just, adding new products it's just like the stars have to align on so many different things. It's not as
Yeah.
simple, and people are like, just make this, and you're like, well, by the time I research this and get a new vendor and all this stuff, like, oh my gosh, it's just
I
a lot
know.
more goes into adding a product than people realize. So I love all the
Yes.
questions, and that brings us to like our next question too, with talking about like researching for adding a new product. So like once you've asked all these questions, you're like, okay, I feel like I'm kind of ready to take the leap into this. Let's talk about like researching and finding a vendor and how that all kind of looks.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm for sure an over researcher. If this Google Doc of notes has not proved anything else, I like to take my time researching things and taking notes on things. And I do always like to research how the product is made. I try and buy as much as possible made in the US. So I like to see if the vendors can offer that. There's nothing wrong with ordering things overseas, but for turnaround time and everything, I feel like I can tend to be a little bit of a procrastinator on designing things. So it's great when things are made in the US because they're usually a little bit faster. And then I like to, in that same vein, see what the turnaround time is. Some of my vendors are like a 2 business day turnaround time, which is wonderful. And then some take 4 to 5 weeks. So I just have to know that ahead of time so that I can figure out if I can make it work for the current collection I'm working on, or if it's something that I need to save for the future. And then I do also like to see if the pricing is comparable to other vendors on the market. Kind of going back to what we were talking about before, it's always really great to be able to have good pricing for margins, both for your own retail shop and then thinking ahead to wholesale, even if it's not something that you're offering at the current moment. But I know that there's always caveats with pricing. If something is priced a lot more affordably, I do always like to see if I can order a sample to see if the quality, if I'm switching from one vendor to another, is at least similar, if not hopefully even better, because that would be great if it was more affordable and better quality. That happened with my tea towels. I had been using a dropshipping company that I still use for some other products, but I wanted to be able to offer my tea towels wholesale. And it was just really hard to find a vendor that would be able to do beautiful, vibrant, saturated watercolor designs on flour sack tea towel. And so I spent a lot of time researching those and getting samples and seeing if the vendor could even just send me photos of the press checks and everything. And that's one thing that I do always love to encourage my students and anyone listening on the podcast is to really try and communicate with the vendors and not think that it's just a one and done, like you order it online and you don't have the opportunity to engage with them at all. A lot of times they'll be really responsive and can let you order samples, even if it's a vendor where you are ordering something in bulk. Like the wholesale minimum for that tea towel vendor is 51, which might seem scary if it's a new product that you are testing out. But they were able to send me a physical product sample for an additional cost. So I always think that it's worth it, especially if you're buying something that's not just, 10 or something like that. So that's something I always like to research to make sure that it's something that I kind of put my stamp of approval on, because I do have a very high quality threshold for what I send to my customers. So that's really important to me. And kind of on that same vein, I wrote down how responsive the vendor is with questions. Sometimes they will honestly be a little bit more willing to be flexible with working with you and sending photos or sending samples than others. So I do like to have good working relationships with my vendors. And if they are able to offer a print method that works best with my watercolor art, if it isn't apparent on their website. So one great example for this is I have these ceramic bow dishes on my website, and that company does not really have very many photos on their website of printed designs on their ceramic ware, but I wanted to be able to offer a really unique product that I hadn't seen on the market yet. And so I just reached out to them and asked them if it was something that they would be able to offer. And it was something that they were actually privately offering to customers who asked. And so I do like to encourage people to, if there's a product that you see that you love, but it isn't really apparent on their website that it's something they offer, whether it's like the size of a calendar or offering like coil binding for a notebook or a calendar or something like that, to reach out and see if it's something that they can be flexible with.
This is like such a good tip, because this just shows like the difference, I want to say the difference between a girl and a woman. Like when you are a girl business owner and you're young, you're just like, oh, they don't have that, goodbye. But when you're a woman business owner, you're like, I'm going to find out what you guys are doing over there. Because printers notoriously have like the worst websites, first of all. And like, you don't really know what they offer until you just like be like, hey, I have this idea. Is this even possible? And like, a lot of times you just start like collabing with the printer and they show you like, well, we have this and you can like work within those specifications. Like I feel like a lot of my product development has come from just asking questions and being the annoying person. And you really have to like talk to them, like pick up the phone and call them, send an email, explain in detail what you want at, you know, like the minimum order you're willing to buy. Like, can I see a sample? All those things are so important and just really like differentiates different brands on like how they can get those unique products. Like you mentioned the ceramic ware, like looking at the website, you'd be like, oh, well, they don't have that. But because you took the extra step, you're able to have a completely unique product. So I always like love to encourage other small business owners to like really take that extra step, like ask. You'll never know unless you ask. And you have to do that and do the work, basically do the research and keep going and keep going.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, because I know it can be comforting. There are certain websites that are great where you can immediately see a product mock-up, and that's really reassuring and comforting. But I think that it is important to spend that time and that money to talk to the vendors and order the physical samples if it's a product that you're really excited about.
Yeah, I like one of my products, I literally talked to probably 45 different print shops before I found one that would work with me on. And they're like, interesting idea. I think we can make this work. And I was like, it has to fit inside this box because I already found the packaging for it. So anything else can be flexible, but it has to fit within this. Like it just has to be under 17 inches basically. And they're like, okay, we can make that work. And like, it was just really, it was fun. It was like a really fun process. And I'm like, I truly like developed a product, you know, like from something that was totally new. And now this printer is like offering it as like one of their offerings. Offering as an offering. Cool. Very exciting. So yeah, it's just kind of cool to just take those extra steps. So little side note there, guys.
Definitely.
This is all so good. Like the past like 15 minutes alone have been like a whole episode worth of knowledge. So I'm like really hope like we could have probably done a series of like 3 episodes with you, Jessica, with how much information there is. So I know that you do have a call this morning. So do you want to do like a quick lightning round for testing your products via pre-sale as well as your go-to marketing methods and just like hit us with the info and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, so pre-sale, I do think this is a really great way to test new products and kind of going back to, I feel like I'm talking about the bow hats a lot, but I did just recently do this with my baseball hats in the summer because they were a completely new product category for me. And while I was excited about them and I had that kind of gut instinct, I really didn't know how they would be received. And there were a couple of vendors that I was torn between, one where I could buy them in as small as quantity as one, and then one where I would need to buy, I think it was like, 72 or 100 of each. And so I just wasn't sure which option to choose. And so I decided to do a pre-order because they did get a really great response. I think I mentioned that before on Instagram. It was the most likes that I've gotten in a while on a static photo on Instagram. I think it was over 1,000, which I feel like is unheard of right now for just a regular photo on Instagram. It's like, yes, people love these. And then I do want to kind of share transparently that just because you get a lot of likes on Instagram, or if you do a poll on Instagram stories and you see a certain amount of people say like, yes, I want to buy this, not all those people are going to buy that. So I knew I wasn't going to go out and buy 1,000 hats. So I wanted to put them on pre-order to see realistically how many people are going to order the hats. And since I think I had 6 different designs, which one would be the most popular. So some of them I did only sell a handful of, and then the bow hats I sold a lot of. So I'm really glad that I did pre-order them because that gave me the ability to realize which vendor to go for and how many to order and not have a ton of inventory just sitting in my office that I wouldn't be able to necessarily sell if I had ordered 1,000 of them. And the same, I had mentioned this earlier, I'll be doing this for my calendars for this upcoming holiday season. And it'll be important because kind of like with the hats for the very first time, even though I know it's my best selling product, I don't know which designs my customers are going to gravitate towards. So people might love the Ginger Jar calendar and mostly buy those, or they might prefer this year's calendar if they had purchased the Ginger Jar calendar back in 2019, I think was the year that I had released that, or 2018, sometime around then. So if they already had that calendar, they might want a new one. So I don't know off the bat how many of each design I want to order. So doing a pre-order, especially since that vendor is one of the ones that has just a quick 2 business day printing turnaround time, it's kind of a no-brainer because my customers aren't going to have to wait like 2 months to get their product or something. Because whenever I've done pre-orders in the past, again, kind of transparently, if it is a product that has a really long lead time, you will probably get a lot of emails from customers being like, hey, just checking in. When is my order shipping? Even if you have that information on your website. So that is something to consider. If you do a pre-order, it is really great if the vendor has a kind of quick turnaround time. And then I do always like to do pre-orders for apparel because since it's not my main focus of my shop, and I don't know kind of what sizes people might want, I don't want to risk stocking different sizes. And that was another reason why I decided to do that brand collaboration with the shoes, because there are so many different shoe sizes too. So I was nervous about having different sizes both for shoes and apparel. So pre-orders are great for things like that too.
Yeah, that's so smart. I just did the pajamas, and like the sizes just blew my mind. I ordered like 16 different sizes and I was like, I can't do this. This is so stressful. And then people be like, you need to get this size. And I'm like, I don't know what to do here. But I didn't do pre-order because I also hate the emails. People are like, where is my order? And I'm like, it's coming. Just give me a second. I promise. Like you guys said you saw it was pre-order. Like, I don't know.
I know.
Anyway, just
you'll inevitably get those. Just have a canned response. It'll be fine.
I know. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But the pre-order is really smart for things like that. So let's talk about like a couple more marketing methods, because you are like such a good influencer marketer queen. So talk a little bit about that and how it's growing your business.
Yeah. So from the social media standpoint, Instagram has always been my main platform. I've been on it since it was used with horrible filters back in 2013. So it's changed a lot. And I know a lot of us, myself included, are kind of frustrated with it, but I do still like to think of it as a way to cultivate relationships with my existing followers and customers and show sneak peeks of upcoming product collections. So I kind of think of Instagram as a way to really nurture those relationships. And then it's also great if and when I get to attract new customers too. So that's kind of how my mindset works for that platform. I have not gotten on TikTok yet, but I think I'm going to soon. I think Cami, you're on it. Elizabeth, I don't know if you are, but I know that would be a great way to reach a completely new audience. I just need to sit down and think through a strategy of how I want to use it. And then kind of most recently in the social media realm, my sister, Julia, she is taking an online course about how to improve our Pinterest strategy, because I feel like Pinterest is such a great platform for online shops and artists since it's so visual. And within the first week, it's been really crazy to see how much it's grown. Like the impressions are up 5,500%. Engagement is up 10,000%. It's like wild to see how much it's grown just with a few tweaks. So I'm really excited to see how that changes our business and hopefully leads to new customers, because I know my friend Jess of Empress Stationery, she said that Pinterest is one of her biggest referrals for her wedding invitation clients. So I'm excited to see how that potentially grows both my shop and the Crest Bar. And then kind of on that note though, so I do love social media, but I feel like the bread and butter of my marketing strategy is definitely my newsletter. Most of my sales come from my newsletter because it's the best way to get early access. I'll usually give my customers anywhere from a half an hour to a couple of hours of early access to a collection, depending on what it is, with a password to access that shop page, so that they can get some of the products that might sell out quickly before the public gets access. And then one of the ways that I really can test how it's working is that I usually give my newsletter a 5% bigger discount code than I give on Instagram. And so since there are two different codes, I can see how much each code is used. And the newsletter code is always drastically higher than the Instagram one. So if you don't have an email newsletter, I definitely recommend it. Even if you are just beginning, I don't think there's any reason to necessarily wait. It's a great way to increase sales for sure. And then I do consider my brand collaborations a marketing growth strategy. I think that it's a great way to reach a new audience. And so that's one of the focuses that I have for 2022 and 2023. I'm working with a lot of other brands to do kind of licensing collaborations with my artwork, which is really fun. And then kind of on that same sense, I do think that influencer marketing is one of my favorite marketing strategies. I've been doing it more consistently since about 2019, 2020, and have really worked to build strong friendships with those influencers first before reaching out to them in kind of a working capacity. And it's been great to have them spread the word about my products and my crests. And in 2020, my shop got on Reward Style, which is the affiliate platform a lot of influencers like to use, which is a great way for new influencers to kind of find and share about our shop too, in addition to the ones that I'm personally working with. And then kind of on the PR side, my sister, who I've mentioned a couple times, I hired her full-time last year. She not only designs all of our crests, but she also handles our PR. That's what she got her degree in. So she's been consistently pitching us for media coverage, which is something I definitely did not do before hiring her. So it's been really great. And she's gotten us some really great features in local magazines and really fun magazines like Modern Luxury Palm Beach, and then some national publications that will be released in 2023. So that's really exciting too.
Yay. I love it.
All the things. I remember I asked you too about Reward Style a while back. I think it was you. I know I asked a couple people because I was like considering getting on it. And now that I've been working with more and more influencers in the past year, I'm like, I think it's time, because they'll link to my Etsy shop because Etsy is part of Reward Style. And I'm like, I don't want that. So I know it's like an initial upfront cost. And I'm just like, oh, I've just been putting it off. But I'm like, I think it's time. Like, I think
it'd be great.
Yeah, I think it would be good, considering everyone I work with is an influencer at this point. So I love that that's been working for you too. It's just like nice to have that like good track record to see it. So very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Jessica, tell us where we can find you, where everyone listening can find you online, your website, Instagram, all of it.
Yeah. So my Instagram is Simply Jessica Marie. And then my website is simplyjessicamarie.com, which is where you'll be able to find my online shop, the Crest Bar, all of my online courses and vendor guide and everything. And I'm going to be putting together a special page for your podcast listeners called simplyjessicamarie.com/bizbirthdaybash. And I'll just do like a recap of some of my favorite blog posts I've written throughout the past years of growing your shop, and then some resources and an exclusive discount code for listeners. So that's going to be kind of a fun way to see more of like the educational side of things too, if they're interested. But those are the two main ways. And then you can sign up for my newsletter, like I talked about, on my website, unless I'm having a new collection release or sale. The very top banner on my website will have a sign up for it. But if not, there's a pop-up too. So that's a great way to always kind of get the early scoop on what's going on in my business.
Amazing. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. This has been so helpful. Like I said, we could have divided it up into like 3 episodes. There was so much knowledge that you shared that's going to be so helpful for all our listeners, because everyone's been asking for more product stuff.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. You guys know the deal. Leave a rating and review on iTunes, and questions on bizbirthdaybash.com/Q&Cake. But otherwise, we're going to wrap up for the day.
Jessica, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all. I really appreciate it. It was so much fun.
Bye.
Bye.